Before we start this tutorial uh, about making Pong in Godot, if there's anything that gives you trouble in this first episode, go to my GitHub page in the description and download the project. As long as you're using Godot 3.2.3 or later, this should work fine, as long as you follow everything in the video. And for the fonts, if you need something different from what we have, you can go to fonts.google.com and download any of these fonts. With that out of the way, let's start with open up Godot. Let's create a new project. We're gonna go and browse to whatever location you are using to save your games. I'm gonna create a folder here and we're gonna name it Pong. Let's select that folder and create an edit. Now let's go, before we do anything else, let's go to the project settings, go to display, click on the window option. We'll set the width and height to 256 by 256, and then we're going to also set the test width and height to 1024 by 1024. And we're going to also go down here into stretch and set it to 2D with everything else the same. Next, before we continue, we're going to search up for color, select environment under rendering, and switch the default clear color to black. With that out of the way, let's go in, go to the 2D viewport. Let's quickly go in, add all the folders we're going to be using. We'll make one for art, make one for the fonts we'll be using, and make one for the scenes as well. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to open up downloads where I've stored the stuff. I'm going to take the paddle and ball, move them into the art folder. If it's going to go in correctly, there we go. And back here and drag this into this folder. Now that should be everything we need for both the art and fonts for this tutorial. Now let's start with making the first scene. We're going to click here, make user interface node as our root node. We're going to rename this to main underscore game and make sure the layout's full rect. I'm going to save this under the scenes folder, save that. Next, we're going to go into scene, create new scene. Now we're going to need a kinematic body 2D. Let's rename this to ball. Next, we're going to be adding a sprite to that. And then we're going to need to make sure reselect ball again. And we're going to add a collision shape 2D to that. Now, the sprite, select sprite, open up the art folder, click the ball PNG and drag it to the texture slot. And then zoom in, make sure it looks correct. I'm going to create a new rectangle shape. I'm going to right click on it, click edit, set the X and Y to 4x4. And that should be everything for this ball scene. Go and save it. Next, we're going to create paddles. We're going to go in and do the same thing we did for the ball. We're going to create a kinematic body 2D. We're going to rename this to paddle left. No, why is it all kinematic? Left. And then we're going to add in a sprite. Another collision shape 2D. And finally, we're going to add a position 2D. Now, select sprite and drag the paddle to the texture slot. Select collision shape 2D. Create a new rectangle shape. Let's edit that again. Do 4x12 this time. And select position 2D and transform it to, I believe, -5. Yep, that looks correct. Let's save that, name it paddle left. Go into scene. Let's click save as, and we're going to call this one paddle right, just so we don't have to redo same thing as before. What we're going to do different is rename this to paddle right, change the sprite visibility. We're going to go under visibility, select modulate, and select a nice red color. And we're also going to move the position from -5 to 5, so it's going to calculate from the correct position when the ball hits the paddle. Now, there's one last scene we need to create. We're going to create the UI interface that's going to display on the screen. So first, let's open up other node and let's search for a canvas layer. We're going to rename this as UI. No, UI. There we go. Let's create a label for that. And I'm going to keep label selected and hit, if you're on Mac, Command D. I believe it's Control D on Windows. Do it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now we have 4 labels. Let's rename these first, and we're going to name this one score underscore left, score underscore right. Now ball reset, and then I believe last one is win message. For score left and right, set the default text for now to 0, just so we'll have something and we'll be able to see the difference once we start playing the game. Go back to UI and we're going to add 3 more things. First, we're going to add a timer. Make another copy of that. The first timer, we're going to name it timer ball reset. Next one, we're going to rename it to timer win message. Last but not least, select UI again, and we're going to add a color rect. Okay, now make sure that's a full rect as well. And we're going to go ahead and change the color. We're going to change it to like a darkish color, but what we're going to do is lower the alpha so we can see through and see the underneath of the this color rect is only going to pop up with whether or not we were to pause the game or win the game. So for now, we're going to select color rect and we're going to toggle the visibility. Now save that to scenes folder. Now let's go into the main game class and we're going to add instances of the ball, the left paddle, the right paddle, and finally we're going to add the UI. Now if you scroll in, you're going to see both the left and right paddle indicated by these green lines, and you can also just hover over it and you'll see the 3 objects here. Then the UI, it should have everything as long as you did everything properly. This is going to be it for this tutorial, though. For this project, we're only going to focus on the main gameplay. Maybe after getting the main gameplay, I'll add in another scene that has the main menu or even an end cutscene. But for now, this should be it. I guess I'll see you guys in the next episode.